one of the most important changes, one of the saddest changes in the last 10 years in regards to being a man is that for a long time before, it used to be that being a good man was something to strive for. There used to be a great worth in living and becoming a good man. Good men were pointed at with stories. You heard it in history class. There were the evil Nazis. Well, who stood up to the evil Nazis that were trying to take over the world? Who fought and died? A lot of good men. A lot of other people did too. But a big chunk of the people that fought the most, that died the most, that drew a line in the sand and told the bad guys, you're not going any further. You're going to have to kill us first. Those were good men. We were taught that if you see somebody that's hurting, if you see somebody that can't defend themselves, somebody that's helpless, somebody that's being a victim, somebody that a bad man is hurting, a bad man is taking advantage of. A lot of men were encouraged to be heroic, to be sacrificial, and a lot of men grew up embracing that role. They even embraced that role more than they embraced materialistic things. You know, you hear a lot of times today about how men control, they crave power, they want authority, they want to manipulate, they want to oppress. Well, that's true. There have been a lot of men that do those things, but there were also a lot of men throughout history that are the same people that fought to free the slaves, that fought for women to have rights. Good men were the primary physical force willing to stand up and draw a line and confront bad men. But there used to be a clear distinction. And because there was a distinction, there were a lot of men that felt a sense of value and felt a sense of worth and purpose. If for nothing else, being a good man. Maybe they worked 70 hours a week. Maybe they didn't have a big house. Maybe they didn't have a nice car. Maybe they didn't even have a great wife. Maybe they didn't love their life. But one thing that was the bedrock of who they were is that they believed, they knew that it mattered to them, that they were a good man. That's gone now. Now there's not good men, bad men. There are just men. And men are bad. Just by virtue of having masculine qualities, of having beliefs and convictions that are no longer popular. Sometimes just genetically. Now there's not good men and bad men in history. Now there's just history of men, period, that have oppressed and hurt and victimized. And we're the ones that are capable of the most evil just because we're men. So where does that leave you if you just wanted to be a good man? There's no distinction anymore. So where's the worth? And the other thing is men can't stand up for themselves. Before, if somebody was trying to oppress another race, if they were trying to keep women down, if they were trying to take over countries, if they were trying to slaughter people, well, then the good men could run in and they could join that fight. They'd stick up and they'd fight for those other demographics. Who's fighting for men who are being vilified? Because men tend not to stick up for themselves. They just hope and pray that maybe the people around them will see that in spite of their flaws, that some of us have true character. Some of us want and try to be good men. But we're getting lost along with the rest of the men of the world. And now all it takes is for somebody else to throw an accusation, even at a good man, because he's not a perfect man, and suddenly he's no good either. He's thrown in the pile with the rest of them. And he's lumped together with the very man that he tried so hard not only to not become, but he's thrown in and considered just as bad as the men who never cared about right and wrong, who never cared about standing up for what they believed in. Now men are just men, and all men are bad. So what's a good man supposed to do? Other than just die inside and wonder why he doesn't matter. Even in areas that seem as meaningless or as unimportant as fictional characters. Batman, Superman, James Bond, right? Terminator. A lot of the characters that we grew up looking at and thinking, okay, so there's an example. You know, as a little boy, there's an example of the kind of hero I want to be, the kind of good man that I want to be. They're slowly being torn down too. They're being redefined. So again, it's all getting lost. We're not even okay to just have the old fictional heroes to stand by. Now even they're sexist. Now the Hulk can't be stronger than She-Hulk. And now even when the Hulk's trying to be a good character, the She-Hulk is insulting him and putting him down because he doesn't understand that he's part of the problem just by virtue of being a man. Now if you try to explain yourself to a woman, maybe you're mansplaining, maybe you're talking down. But if you don't, then maybe you're being insensitive and maybe you're being aloof. If you're being too sensitive and trying to be too aware, then you're too dependent, you're too weak. You come across as chasing. And women aren't attracted to that. Now you're called a simp. So then you try to present yourself with strength. Now you present yourself with strength. Now you're a douchebag. Now you're a manipulator. Now you're an ass. The truth is, in the world today, a lot of men are just looking for a safe place to land. And there's no safe place to land. They don't know who they're supposed to be. And because for a good man, when you take away that goal of being heroic, of being a good provider, of being a good husband, of being a good father and a good friend, and you just kind of give them a blanket statement, a blanket diagnosis of you are just genetically and fundamentally bad. What do they have to live for? What's the purpose? What it's starting to become is that you're boiled down to, well, what worth can you provide? What are you giving? How much do you make? And emotionally, your emotions come in dead last at the end of the day. Does your wife feel fulfilled? Are you listening to her? Is she feeling important? Are you giving her the support? Are you giving her the back rub? Behind every great man is a greater woman. I'd never hear behind every great woman there's a greater man or a great man. Men are just there to either support, to build, to encourage, and then to shut up. And in a lot of families, it's even that way for the kids. What do the kids want to do versus what the husband wants to do or the father wants to do? Well, hey, a good father and a good husband is supposed to shut up and go with what the kids want. Supposed to shut up and go with what the wife wants. In every area, he better be sacrificial, he better be providing, and he better shut up. And if he's hurting and he tries to complain, he's weak. And if he doesn't stand up for himself, he's weak. And if he tries to just have a conversation, he's shouted down. So men are unplugging. They're going for the closest thing that they can have a lot of times. Sometimes that's pornography. Sometimes that's jumping from one meaningless relationship to another. Sometimes it's just turning off and not even trying to be a part of a conversation that they feel like they can't win. And a lot of times when they do that, the person that they've been with for years is now confused. Why did he walk away? Why did he just give up on me? Why doesn't he fight for this relationship? I'm not saying this is the case in every situation. It's definitely not the case in every situation. But a lot of times, if you're wondering why that man left, sometimes if you take a deep breath and think back, maybe he tried to tell you a million different ways, a million different times, just how hopeless, just how unheard, just how meaningless he was feeling. And he didn't know how to change it, and he didn't know a safe way to say it. He was either going to be seen as too weak, or he was going to be seen as too much of a selfish ass. So he just quietly suffered until he decided that, well, if I'm going to suffer, I might as well suffer alone. At least when I'm alone, there are a few things that I can choose for myself. And I don't feel so ignored and I don't feel so meaningless. I just feel alone. And sometimes alone, as painful as it is, can feel a little bit better. Again, it's not the case every time. I'm not saying it's even the case the majority of the time. But the truth is, it is happening in a lot of cases. And a lot of men don't know how to say or have tried to say what I'm saying right now. And it just fell on deaf ears. And maybe now you were one of those people that he was trying to tell and you're wondering how you lost him. Maybe that's how you lost him. Maybe not. If this situation fits, then you'll know it. If it does, try reaching out to him and articulating the kind of pain that I'm trying to articulate now. Maybe try letting him know that you hear him. Not just that you're listening. Maybe this time don't give him an answer for why he's wrong. Maybe give him some understanding for why he's right. And for why he should be hurt. Because he's only human.